But since we're recording now, we'll all just spend some quiet time reading focus area 2, refamiliarizing ourselves.
So just to confirm, this is like 10 slides and everything in pink that we are going over right now and reviewing on the slide deck.
On the slide deck, I'm looking at the handout, which was 5A-2, and I'll look at the slide deck now as well. Oh, the
Because
slide deck is the handout.
for
Wait,
some
no,
for some
sorry.
reason I can't well, I can't have both of those up at the same time because I don't have them printed one the
I think right now for just reading, we can look at the handout. It might be
okay.
easier. And then when we start working, we'll go to the slides. Does that sound good?
They're the
I,
same, right?
Either way, I think
They're,
yeah,
yeah, I think they're one and the same though.
yeah, I think so too.
But the handout has the
Support for it.
yeah, our poll numbers.
Cool.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? You guys actually are ready.
Okay, thanks. Um, thanks, Haiju. We're just reading right now.
Thank you.
Are you two needing more time? I'm only asking because I can go grab some water if you.
I'm good, but if you want to grab water, you go ahead.
No, I got a little left. I was just going to take advantage of the downtown. I'm good.
Yeah,
Um,
it would be mean to say I would rather see you parched, you know.
I'll I'll do my best to carry on. So
um, go
I
ahead.
first this is focus area two is
I think you're going to have a similar question to mine. Go ahead.
okay. Yeah, I mean there's not much about how programs are embedding this assessment into into coursework. I mean, feedback I imagine being part of it. Um, but I think that none of the recommendations are really uh, explicitly offering anything in terms of how programs might embed this work in as part of the coursework.
I had the same reaction. I had to go back a couple of times and read, wait, what is this recommendation? Um, so all I can think of is that in the context of doing the work, perhaps the language for embedding is already in standards, and maybe this was additional things that this work group felt was important. I didn't work on this area. Did either of you?
I vaguely remember some of these. Um,
Yeah, honestly, it's
the
all
place,
blurring together for me. I don't
yeah,
remember.
I know, I know.
the place that I do see some type of language around embedding is on slide 9 with 2G, and it's talking about models sponsors collecting exemplary practices for embedding the TPA.
Yeah.
And
This
I
also,
believe that one didn't get really high support anyway in this category. Or
hmm.
I think seeing the other pieces, it was slide 10 was like I think the least amount of support.
Uh, I'm just going to say too that my other question around all of this is when we say embedding the TPA, and this has come up a lot, and I don't know that we've figured it out. Are we talking about embedding the actual process of completing the TPA tasks, or are we talking about the formative experiences as well? Do either of you remember if we've gotten that figured out?
No, but I wondered, I had a similar thought. So with the recommendation 2A, they just call it work without explicitly saying a TPA or TPA tasks or anything like that. And I wondered if that was by design to be
Mhm.
open enough to include some more um, choice in how things are embedded or what's embedded.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if we are having these questions, everybody will, and we might just need to clarify what we think.
This is not, we are not tasked with adding to this list. We're just tasked with turning this into fat. What is it? What's their acronym? Uh,
Streamlined, focused, and
thank
actionable.
you. Whatever that, yeah.
SFA. Um,
One of the places that that I initially got response on this was that 2D and 2C might combine together because I saw them very similarly, but I don't know how you all saw them.
So you said B as in boy or D as in dog with
D as in dog and
oh,
C as in cat.
got
Dogs and cats together.
it. Yeah, I made that note too, and I saw some parallels between A and B, and C and D.
yeah. So we can consolidate, is my understanding. for the purpose of streamlining.
I actually I think with C and D I think really um, should go together 'cause I think one informs the other.
Yeah.
So just pop it
Oh,
in here.
thanks.
Work group members will review, consolidate, and refine recommendations for focus areas 1 through 5 to prepare draft recommendations to submit to the commission. So you can review, consolidate, and refine.
Okay, thank you. I think we also, though, may need a sentence at the very beginning that clarifies what we mean by what's being embedded.
Yeah. Mm, my understanding might be at the like either a task of the TPA or a piece of the, and not just the process of preparing for the
So
TPA.
both the formative experiences and completion of the assessment itself
Mm-hmm.
is embedded, or the process of the assessment itself.
The problem with saying that the formative has to be embedded is then you get into the question of like, okay, well, how much is it? All of the TPA can be embedded in coursework, and teacher candidates can submit their coursework to count as a TPA, or is it a piece, and how much is of that is decided by who? So those are questions again that I have as well.
There isn't anything here that's specific to the criticism of duplicative work. That's a big one.
Yeah.
That's this work group needed to work on. Um, any ideas on maybe an entry sentence that just defines what we're talking about?
Are we going, what slide are we on?
Um,
Are we still on 2C? Are we thinking about combining those, or are we moving back
I
to
think we zoomed out a little bit, yes?
yeah, I was just wanted to
2A?
zoom out for a second and just so that the three of us are on the same page of what's being embedded.
Mm-hmm.
And just write an introductory sentence to this section. Do you
Okay.
have ideas?
I don't have ideas, but I would like to keep it open enough so that um, people aren't feeling forced to uh, include word for word a task or a commentary as part of coursework.
Right, right. I agree.
Oh, I didn't mean to raise my hand. It went down. Never mind.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I mean, it could
I
be,
think I
but
think
it
if
could be.
we leave the language open enough, then there can be a choice within there. And I think maybe that's why 2A focused on the work kind of ambiguously.
So what if one part to this is just RDI TPA recommends embedding formative and final experiences with the TPA in both coursework and clinical work so that candidates are not left alone or on their own. Something like this would just be addressing that we don't want candidates out there doing this all by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So state that language again, if you want, I can try
Um,
to put it in here. The RDI work group recommends that.
or just recommends embedding formative and final experiences with the TPA in both coursework and clinical work. Maybe that's enough. We don't need so that candidates are not left on their own, but the idea is that they're not left on their own.
And maybe as we go through this, we can revisit and refine as
Yeah, okay, that sounds
right.
good.
Coursework and what field? Did you say?
Final, oh,
Final.
coursework and clinical work is
Clinical.
what the area 2 recommendation language uses, so.
Where are you typing that? Oh, never mind. I
Recommends 2A.
So let me just,
But this wasn't specific to 2A.
right, this was an overview, I think.
Oh,
An overview sentence to the whole thing. So maybe some people created,
you want to create a slide?
yeah, in
Okay.
front of this.
And we can call this embedding.
Well, why don't we, can we just put the
The language that
yeah,
they have.
the recommendations for how programs might embed the assessment into coursework and clinical work to avoid duplicative work for candidates? I
Hmm.
I can
Yeah, go ahead. Put that on there. And then you want the embedding formative and final experiences with the TPA coursework and clinical work to be put
Yeah.
there.
um,
Oh, we have
No?
several people working.
I'm doing
Focus area 2 recommendations. Let's see. Recommendation for how programs might embed the assessments into coursework. Maybe the title of this is clarification of focus area 2 recommendations.
I see what you're laughing at. So I was so locked in on what I was doing. Yes, that was an excellent suggestion. What did you say again?
Clarification of focus area 2. And then I'm just going to write, I think I'm just going to do, all right. Okay. What do you guys just leave this for now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's a good, yeah,
If
starting
we
place
want to
for,
come, oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, exactly. I was just gonna say, I think we should revisit this from time to time just to make sure that it's still captures what we want it to. And
Okay. How about we do some of the easier ones first?
yeah, I think I agree. I think C and D is maybe low hanging fruit. Do we want to
Okay.
start there or lower hanging fruit? Maybe I don't know how low, but we'll find out, I guess.
Let's see.
So I think my reading of this, the spirit is that if there's a condition code, candidates should not have to wait until the next scoring period, which is weeks out, in order to resubmit.
Hmm.
That's like a big 2 week, 2 month, I think, if not more, window that they're not getting scores just because of a condition code. So there should be some grace period, it sounds like, for candidates to submit, get notified that they have a condition code, and resubmit within the same scoring window. And I think all that needs to be part of the same recommendation, because I don't know if one moves forward without the other, then they don't really capture all that's happening.
I see that 2C has the language of um, well, 2D has the time period in which 2C was asking for. 2C is like some type of time period. 2D is like within 2 weeks. So 2D, whoever worked on 2D named a time period. So that's kind of cool to be able to combine those. And then 2C has the language of um, allowing students to resubmit without incurring additional costs, whereas 2D, um, I guess that 2D does have that as well, but it doesn't specifically name that in the recommendation in the first bullet. The intention is there, but it's not named.
Um, so right now, I think the law is, I don't know if it's law, policy, or CTC policy, that within 3 weeks of submitting a TPA, candidates need to receive their scores. So we want to not hold up the submission process so that's not possible. But I suppose what we need to say is that there's a limit to, or there simply need to be more options for resubmitting if there's a condition code, so that they're not waiting so long. I don't really remember how long candidates are waiting. Do we just want to identify a timeline?
Yeah, well, that's what I was looking up now. So you're right, Tina. It looks like it's about 21 days or 3 weeks from submission to getting their scores back.
Mhm.
Um, with um, sometimes no, um, depending on the time, there's no opportunities for candidates to, if you get it. So, for example, with this first one, if I the first submission date of 2024 was October 3rd. So if I submit on October 3rd and I get my score back on October 24th, that gives me a condition code. The next due date is October 24th. So I would get my code at 5 p.m., not realistically be able to do anything about it. So now I'm in the November 7th window. So I don't get my next score back until November 27th. So that's 2 months really, before from initial submission to getting something back that's not a condition code.
And then aren't there two different types of commission codes, one being more logistical technical? I think this is what 2D was trying to say, and others where there's something more qualitative in the work. You know, didn't submit your video or whatever it is. I'm not exactly sure.
Hmm.
Do you all remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Or you didn't submit, you're missing whole pieces of your assessment. And I think there should be a time limit too for the candidate.
Yeah.
All right, is there a way that we can write this that,
Does everybody agree about the language of resubmission within 2 weeks on 2D? Because if so, we could start pulling in language from 2C that gets to the idea of allowing students to resubmit without incurring additional costs, and edit that with whatever timeline, Tina, that or not timeline, but the idea of like not having a forever resubmission date, if that's what you're talking about.
yeah, we could. I guess one way to start this is just as you were just saying, Elisa, we could take 2C, we could take the first sentence of 2D, add it to 2C and see what it looks like. I'm just getting confused looking between the two.
Sure, you could do that as well.
But I think, Tina, what you're bringing up is a good point, though. I mean, there are some condition codes that are more, um, they're different. Uh,
Mhm,
Condition code is just something is missing.
mhm.
That hopefully can be remedied. Maybe it's an uploading problem or somebody uploaded the wrong document. That should be able to, someone should be able to screen for that rather quickly versus another type of condition code that, well, whatever they are, would involve someone actually a score looking at it and then identifying something that's problematic.
Right. I wonder if we can ask any of the staff in the room if there's an easy distinction language we can use to distinguish between the two types of condition codes.
Well,
Kristen,
if we take the language of 2D and put it in front of 2C, so I just made some proposals on 2C.
I know we've got it somewhere, but I'm just wondering, Kristen, are you allowed to speak right now in our group or not?
Yes, I can speak. I'm a little under the weather, but if you'll bear with me.
Okay, sorry to hear that. Is there language to distinguish between sort of the more qualitative errors with condition codes and those that are more logistical? Somebody put the thing in the wrong place or,
Yes, yes. So we have content condition codes,
okay.
content-based, and then technical condition codes. As of the action of the last commission meeting, we are already reforming those greatly. So my understanding is content condition codes are on their way to being more or less eliminated. And candidates will just get scored for the things that they demonstrate, as if, as if that's their submission. For technical condition codes, we are reducing the number and working to get that back to the candidate for them to be able to fix and resubmit quickly. So we will have an update coming in the implementation of that in this next commission meeting in just a couple weeks. But yes, the delineation between content-based and technical is, I think, what you were asking about.
I think so. And content based, does that also include their missing
Yes.
items?
Like if they like something that they don't address. if they're missing video, like a video file, that would probably fall under, I think that would fall under technical. This would be somewhere where I can bring a PA rep, a performance assessment team rep if we need. But I think if they've submitted text, they've submitted video, but they haven't addressed one of the core parts, that would fall under content.
And at the end of the submission process, do they get a checklist that says, you've got everything here?
They do. I don't know if it's a checklist, but they are required to go back through every single one of their sections and their submission files, including their videos. So they are directed to go back through everything that they've submitted. That's at least that's definitely true for Cal TPA, Juliet. I'm not sure if you know offhand if Ed TPA is the same. Tina was asking if they are like provided a checklist at the end of their submission.
Or just a list that says, everything has been submitted?
I believe that is the case for Ed TPA. That's what you're asking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know for Cal TPA, they're walked back through every part for them to review their video files, their text submissions.
Yeah. When I was meeting with Lori, that's what she was talking me through.
Yeah.
All right. So I think what we want to say then, I think this recommendation is referring mostly to technical condition codes. Is that what you both think?
Both of them.
I don't know. What do you think?
Definitely the 2 week one, I think
Yeah, 2D is, or the previous 2D one, yeah. Uh,
Yes. Technical or logistical issue, I would say, yeah, the language we use is technical, so I think that does track.
just so,
Do we want to uncombine these again? Because I just combined them based on our first conversation about having these two things together. And then we were going to add language about um, the other part about limits on allowing students to resubmit without incurring additional costs or something like that. Because they were both very similar, but 2D was more talking about the technical codes, and I think 2C as well, like the
probably what
intention of
people,
that might have been that
so
as well.
why don't we, it seems like we're moving in the field is moving in the direction of the content would get scored. And then if they did not pass, there would be a resubmission option. And then we can address the resubmission in a different recommendation here. Does that sound right?
Well, in that case, if they received a non-passing score, then it would go one of two ways. If they fall within the secondary passing standard, they could still be recommended that way. If they
Right.
don't fall within the secondary passing standard, they would resubmit as anyone who received a failing score. So the automatic resubmission seems to be focused more for those technical issues, like there was something that prevents them from being scored because audio or video, or sometimes it seems to be common that they'll register in the wrong subject area and Pearson needs
Yeah.
to re-register.
So recommends that candidates be able to submit their initial within 2 weeks when a technical, do we want to call it? I don't know if logistical should be in there, if we should just say technical.
That does align with the language used currently. I think technical covers, Juliet, I was giving them, before you joined, I was giving them a brief update on those interim action items and how we're already
Yeah.
basically eliminating content-based and working to reduce and limit technical condition codes and allowing candidates to resubmit quickly.
Yes, and I think this is an important point though, because right now, while the interim actions have kind of reduced, well, eliminated the cost for resubmitting upon receipt of the most common technical condition codes, the timeline is still rather extended. So
Mhm.
there's the point that an assessor makes that call of, oh, look, this one, for whatever reason, it got submitted to the wrong area. And then the assessor has to kick it up to the lead assessor. And then the lead assessor determines, yep, in fact, that's correct. But then the candidate doesn't hear about that until the scores for everybody are released. And then they're not able to submit again until the next submission cycle opens.
That's right. And I know
Uh,
that we are working on that internally, but if there was language from the work group that stressed the desire
Yes.
for that to be able to happen in a faster timeline, specifically within the same submission window, right? So the
Yeah.
candidate's not kicked to the next one.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I
so
think that's the language that's missing because I mean, right now, anytime you get your condition codes, you can always submit within 2 weeks. But the challenge is that after those
Doesn't
two
get scored.
weeks, or 3 weeks are right. So we need to
Yeah.
make sure that um, some language about within the same scoring window or something to that
Mhm.
effect.
what about this? That first sentence instead. And then get rid of the rest of this. So that they can resubmit within the same scoring window without incurring additional costs.
I'm hopping to another breakout room. We'll see you all.
Okay.
Just one question on that would be if a candidate submits at the very end of the scoring window, is that sort of forfeited, on their part? And we could add that to the guidance, I would think that um it's to the candidate's benefit to submit early in the window for this opportunity to resubmit with technical issues, but I just didn't know if that was important to raise, like if a candidate.
Yeah, I think there would be some guidelines so that here it just says so that they can resubmit, that they would have the option, but they would have to meet certain guidelines, I would think. So if they were notified within a week, then they could have, X number of days to resubmit. What do you think, Kristen, so that it still fell within the scoring window?
Yeah, and I don't know that I can make a sweeping recommendation here, but if the impetus is on, Pearson, CTC/vendor Pearson for a 1 week turnaround on that, then that would make sense. It just would mean that if a candidate submits at the end of a scoring window, they may not be able to resubmit in the same scoring window.
Well, so maybe I'm misunderstanding a scoring window. Isn't it you've got to submit by X date and then you've got 3 weeks to get your scores back? And that's the scoring window, the 3 weeks?
Mm. I would it be helpful if I grab someone from PA from
I
perform?
think it's okay. Well, I think we're getting hung up on this one for too long. Let's
Okay.
just go ahead and put this in there like this. And if there are guidelines to be hashed out, this is just our intent. And if
Yeah,
it's not feasible, then it's not going to get passed with this language. But this
right.
is the group's intent. Does that sound okay to you two? Matt and Elisa, what do you think?
Keep it as
Uh,
it's currently written on the slide here.
yeah, I'm gonna cross this out. I can't find
Want to
where's the
cross out Shift Command X.
Shift man.
Shift Command X or
Oh, thank you.
mhm.
Wow. I'm not very good at Google Slides. Uh, let's see. So within the same scoring, so they can resubmit within the same scoring.
Can we? Oh,
So does that mean that we're striking out 2D because we're kind of combining them right now? Is that okay to do that?
I think so.
Okay.
yeah.
Going to Shift Command X this as well.
Could we add? Well, I don't know if we with this first sentence. Candidates are notified within a week of submission if they receive a condition code, period. And then if candidates can resubmit within a week's time after receipt of condition code, their TPA will be scored in the same scoring window. Is that fair?
Mhm.
That look right?
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. We got one done. But we got rid of one, so that's really two. Okay, so the first two are about feedback, and then 2D is gone. 2E is about score feedback. So A and B are about program feedback. E is about score feedback. And F is about using the feedback.
Well, in the spirit of our focus on embedding, maybe we tackle to A and B next.
Okay. Well, there's some grammatical things in A. Looks like we can just put a period here.
I don't see a lot of difference between these two. Am I missing something?
Yeah, scaffolded and sequenced is substantive, differentiated, individualized. And I'm joking. That's the difference between the feedback with A and B, I think, is the adjectives.
Uh,
Uh,
you're saying that 2B is a little bit more concentrated in those words.
Well, I also don't know. I don't remember where this already exists in standards. This is the other thing that there's got to be something in standards around giving candidates feedback. I know there is. But regardless, A and B are both saying we want you to give them good feedback. But A also says something about the guidelines for acceptable support being examined to ensure that the process is both formative and educative. So I think these could be different. One could be about the fact that they need to be getting feedback throughout the program and what that feedback needs to be. And the second one could be about the criteria around the feedback, although that's already part of the interim recommendations.
Didn't I don't remember, but didn't Vanessa say something around standard 5? Is that something that I am remembering verbally anyway? Is there anything in standard 5 that addresses this?
Program standard 5, probably. That's the around how programs are supposed to implement the work. I can take a quick look at that. Um, One thing we could do if we can identify sort of 3 different things about the feedback that each of us could take one and just sort of on our own for a few minutes try to write it out and then come back together.
I mean, on the 2B one?
Yeah, 2A, 2B, and then 2E is a little bit different. This is about the assessor's feedback. We could leave that alone for a minute, but then 2F is about allowing candidates to use the feedback to revise and resubmit. I'm not really sure why we need that one.
Yeah, I think it's the as many times as necessary to achieve the passing score language that was in there. I remember that there was a bit of discussion about that, about even like, yeah.
Okay. I could propose that I look at what the current standards say about the feedback programs need to provide. So we could put 2A and 2B aside for just a second. If
Okay.
one of you wants to work on 2E, which is what the assessor should do, and 2F. Do you want to try that? Okay, who wants 2E?
I'm fine with taking 2E.
Okay,
Unless
Elisa, you good with taking 2F?
Sure.
Okay, so I'll just spend a few minutes. I'll look at the standards and we'll come back and talk.
Great.
so I'm gonna take a quick bio break. I think I have to log out though, so I will be
Okay,
back in.
see you back.
So clarification, what am I doing with 2F? Just kind of reviewing it and seeing if there's any revisions that
Yeah,
need
revisions
to
that you
happen? Okay.
think it might need, yeah, or questions that you have about it. Juliet, we each have our tasks for a few minutes. That's why we're quiet.
That's great. Oh, no worries. How's it going?
Okay. What is our timeline? We have until
So
what time?
that's what I've been kind of just checking in. I have one group finished, one group close-ish to being finished. Oh, I had said 3:15. How does that
Uh,
feel?
I think that's probably pretty good. What do you think, Elisa? Three.
I think
We might be
two more. We
closer.
had two more things. We might be closer to 3:15. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we are too.
Okay, that's fine. So let's
Okay.
just aim for that.
3:15. Are we going to get a break or should we also take a break?
You could take a
before?
break.
Okay. All
Because
right,
that gives
guys.
us about an hour and a half to hear from all the groups
Okay.
and then some
Sounds
closing
good.
comments. So yeah.
Cool.
So I'll stop talking and let you get to work.
Okay. That sounds
Thank you.
How are you guys doing? Do you need more time? You good?
Good.
Okay. Okay. Um, so I went back and looked, I can start with the 2A, 2B thing. I went back and looked at the 5B, standard 5B on candidate prep and preparation and support, and there is a lot here. I'm wondering, can I share my screen? I think I
Mhm.
can't. Okay, I'm going to share this with you all. Can you see it?
Yep.
So here's candidate preparation and support, and I highlighted in yellow some of these things I'll let you look at if you can read it.
Hmm.
So and then they have unacceptable feedback, and then I'm just moving it up. It also, you can see down here, timely and feedback on formative assessments. And then feedback and remedial assistance if they don't pass. So I think that's all to say that there's a lot in there about feedback, but the one thing I didn't see was a distinction again about that we're calling the process both the formative and final preparation work or process. So one idea I had for a slide on feedback would be the RDI TPA work group recommends adding to program standard 5B that programs be required to provide candidates scaffolded and sequenced feedback on both formative and final TPA work throughout the process prior to submission.
What are they, what do you, can you, what is sequenced feedback?
Good question. Scaffolded? I don't think we need sequenced. What do you want? Or just, should we just say feedback? Is the only thing we're really changing in 5B that
Well, I like the individualized.
okay.
Mhm.
It was individualized and what else? I'm just gonna write this down, then I'll paste it in the slide. Individualized. Individualized feedback, anything else? Timely?
Yeah.
Anything else we want for feedback? What did the other
I think I think individualized encompasses differentiated.
I think so too. Okay, so if I
So you're taking, just to be clear, taking parts of 2B and putting them into 2A.
uh or maybe should we just
I just, yeah, I'm just trying to follow on the slides.
yeah, I haven't done anything
Oh,
yet,
okay.
but I'm wondering which one do we like the last two bullet points for better?
Between A and B.
Uh-huh.
I vote for B. I think it's well, one's focus on programs and one's focus on looks like feedback and candidates.
I'm okay with that.
B, okay, so well, I wonder. Oh, here, I'm just going to stick this in front, the sentence in front on B, but it might be that we want some of the language that was already there in B. So if you look at recommendation 2B, I like this piece though, the ongoing feedback on both pedagogy and submission criteria.
That's
What do you guys think?
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that could be an example of the formative and final, or like an addition to formative and final.
Mm-hmm. So maybe it's like includes.
Uh-oh.
I don't know what she's doing here. She already told us we have until 3:15.
Check it in.
Oh, welcome, Juliet.
No,
Okay, what do you all think if that's the first? Let's just pretend I cross this out. And that's the
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
This sentence makes sense here.
Okay, are we good?
Yeah.
Okay, what about the last two bullet points? Oops, sorry, I messed this up. I don't know. I think this is already there.
You probably just combine those two with an and. Maybe cross out not just after the TPA.
I'm sort of thinking that this is also, it's necessary in order to make the TPA process educative.
Mhm.
Maybe that's all it is.
Yeah.
Because we're just adding to what 5B already says, but 5B isn't specific to making it educative.
Well, the first bullet point has educative
Yeah,
in
and
it.
I think, yeah, that we added,
I
but
see, I see.
the standard 5B doesn't have it. Maybe for both candidates and the program.
Hmm.
Well, programs already do. I don't know. We can forget the third bullet point right now, I think. What do you all think?
I agree.
All right, so this one we're just going to cross off, right?
Hmm.
Okay.
All right, we're making progress. So we got 2B, 2C, 2D is out, 2E. Matt, that was you?
Yes, it was, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Um, so I had questions about the um sorry. Uh Sorry, I apologize. There's gonna be a bunch of ringing because my daughter doesn't text in sentences. She texts in words and it just comes through.
Did she use punctuation?
Yes, quite a bit of it. Emojis and lots of other things. Um, so I understand with this one wanting to maybe um, identify what parts of the rubric criteria are the thinking or the reasoning for the particular score. So I'm reading the first sentence. I'm not quite clear on how I'm not quite clear on how the second sentence adds to that. Um,
Okay, has it to provide which if it has the exact criteria met and not activated, also provide clear and actionable next
Yeah.
steps.
This seems like a reaction to maybe like the condition code failures and maybe like just very vague.
Maybe, although right now candidates don't get any next steps. Maybe it's just, I don't know what this 3 weeks of submission deadline means.
Yeah,
well,
I
I
think
think that's already happening though. That seems more.
Should we get rid of that?
Yeah. But I isn't that I don't know if that's the job of the score. That seems more like the work of a faculty or supervisor or mentor to take the feedback and then think about next
I
steps.
mean, unless you're ed TPA and you're getting scored from Pearson and you get like a generic condition code that says your stuff is unscorable, and then what do you do with that information? Because you don't know, the condition code, but you don't really know what feedback there is around that. So this may have been from a group who hasn't had experience with maybe local scoring or whatnot. They're just experienced with Pearson or and
Hmm.
there's not a lot of specific feedback other than a condition code that came back and said needs more evidence
Yeah.
or
Uh,
something like to that effect.
I do. In my experience, I think the first part is helpful. I found that with candidates who don't pass. So we use the EdTPA, and the EdTPA has this document that's called Understanding the Rubrics, and there's a lot of like line items about if they get this score, here's the criteria that is aligned to this score, and we'll often go back and look at their score and the generic feedback, but then also use the Understanding the Rubric document to try to really unpack and make sense of what they're currently doing that yielded that score and then develop next steps accordingly. So it'd be helpful if we didn't have to do that if that sort of work was done all in the same document for the candidate. And that's how I'm anyways in my experience thinking of this first sentence for 2E. Um,
okay, I agree with you. I don't think this is the work or this is the job of assessors who don't know these candidates, don't know their contexts, don't know them.
Mm-hmm.
and what if
But
it comes back and they disagree? Like I don't want to do that as a next step. That's then there's no back and forth because it's not it's a very static thing. It's someone who's just saying, here's take it. So
right. So what were you saying, Matt, that would be helpful that you think scorers could do or scoring could encompass?
well no, I think the first sentence is it, but I don't know if I guess what I was saying is I might be connecting a lot of these dots based on my own experiences. I don't know if this quite captures that yet. So I guess maybe
Mhm.
that's what I was doing is offering up like how I'm thinking about this to see if that is indeed what's captured here, or if I am just interpreting this in my own way, and you might be thinking of it in a different way. In which case, obviously, we'd need to. Um,
Would would there need for criteria, does there need to be something else about where in the evidence the criteria is met or they can't find it? I don't know. That might be tough. Um, met and not met. And maybe something about the evidence and some feedback on the evidence provided that meets criteria. What I'm thinking
Yeah.
of is, I also think that we might want to put a recommendation in here that model sponsors explore the ways AI can enhance the feedback process linked to evidence.
I'm sorry. Can you say that one more time? There's lots going on over here in my neck of
Bring
the.
bringing in AI.
I was thinking that we should require model sponsors to examine how AI can be incorporated into the feedback process.
Mhm.
Like candidates would use AI to
No, the other
maybe
way around.
the other way around.
Yeah, scores would use AI to say there's got to be other ways to put together feedback that's a bit more specific to the candidates, individualized, I guess, to the candidate's evidence.
Hmm.
Maybe we could say,
Is that I don't know if this is relevant here, but would that require whoever the vendor is, like Pearson, to generate their own um, AI software so that these TPAs aren't just uploaded to a general like Chat GPT or your favorite AI service that then just takes and uses all that information.
Right, I know.
Because then that, I mean, I guess that just adds, I'm just thinking of dollar signs.
Yeah, where it, but maybe we don't say anything about AI. We just say the group also recommends feedback individualized to the candidate's evidence. Well, that doesn't make sense. The exact
You could,
criteria met
you,
and not met.
you could throw in a potential or a possibly to give the hint of if you wanted to think about AI there, but not necessarily have to.
I'm not really, I'm not really capturing this well. What do you all think? Or is this what we want?
Yeah, I think the essence of this is just to give more feedback to
I,
candidates to be able to use that, right?
I think what I remember, I think what I was hoping for is candidates used to, so I think the highlighting, the exact criteria met and not met is the first step. But the second one is a lot of times candidates would be like, okay, but where? Where was it met? Like, how did I meet it?
I don't,
Or how didn't I?
yeah.
So maybe at the bottom is
Maybe it's
the
just how the evidence or how the criteria. I'm sorry, Alyssa, go ahead.
no, it's okay. At the bottom, throwing in the word educative again. It seems like that's the purpose. The recommendation is necessary and intended to. I don't know how it jumps to like individualized learning plan in the induction program because that seems like a few steps afterwards. I mean, first you have to do the IDP and then you do the ILP, right? So I'm not entirely sure about the words in the third bullet.
Okay. Uh,
I guess the words in the third bullet are really like talking about the growth process of the candidate um, with that feedback that they're getting. So instead of just getting a generic statement, they are able to use that feedback to really make a growth plan.
okay. So I'm gonna sort of on that note in the bullet point above, do you mind if I say the Rubik scores do not provide candidates with enough information to determine why they scored as they did and what improvements may be needed?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
She's back.
612 or I don't know, again, in the spirit of the educative nature of the work. And then,
Mhm.
oh, Juliet, we're a little behind. Let's see.
Oh, did she freeze? Or did she just have a scowl?
I think she froze. She's very disappointed with us.
Yeah, no.
Oops. I think so too.
Okay, well, we finished 2E, you guys. I think this looks good. This is better. So 2F, we didn't finish talking about, or 2G or 2.
We got kicked out.
Did we get kicked out or did
I got kicked out. I heard you say, I
we got
think she froze, and then I just like disappeared.
okay.
Um,
All right. Yeah, we didn't
I
we
put
didn't
the notes down for 2F, but we didn't get to talk. We didn't get to talk about this one yet.
well,
yeah, 2F, 2G, and 2H. We didn't really get to discuss. Should we
just
just
keep going for a minute. Let me see, because I think there's two other groups that are still working as well. Two groups are
okay.
finished, and then two groups still going a little bit.
Okay, Elisa, what was your suggestion here?
I just put questions in the middle of it. So like, uh, TPAs allow candidates to use the feedback received from initial submissions to revise and submit individual sections. I was like, does there need to be a time cap here? How many times can they do that? That candidates failed as many times as necessary to achieve a passing score. Then I had questions around how does this impact? Uh, how does this play out with the secondary passing score? Or is this like just a holistic? Is the secondary passing score just holistically? And then this one is suggesting that um, kind of we let teacher candidates submit their individual sections as many times as needed to pass the TPA. So I had questions around that.
I think these are really good questions, and I'm actually not sure that this is even recommended because I think they can resubmit. Or maybe
I,
there's a limit.
I was reading this as they can resubmit the same tasks.
Yeah.
I don't know outside of it. I don't know resubmission processes outside of EdTPA, but with EdTPA, you're expected to resubmit new material.
On everything?
Depends on the task you select to resubmit.
Right. And I think that is also why we can't, it's going to depend on the assessment and the psychometrics of the assessment and what can be resubmitted and what has to be completely redone. So if you're missing video of your teaching and you've already taught this particular lesson plan in the first part of your TPA, you're going to have a new lesson plan and all that, right? If that's the problem. But
Hmm.
um I just don't know because there are different resubmission guidelines for each of the TPAs based on the nature of it. 5 minutes? Okay, thanks. Based on what the TPA is, I don't know what we can do here. What do you guys think? Is it just a matter of saying you can resubmit as many times as it takes?
I think you can already do that.
I think you can
Well,
too.
the individual tasks, because I think that's what this is saying. And individual sections.
And we can't, I'd say we can't do that. We can't dictate that if the nature of the TPA doesn't allow for that. In other words,
Mhm.
psychometrically, unless our recommendation is that future revisions to the TPA ensure that it's sectioned off so smaller sections can be resubmitted no matter what. I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah.
What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I'm really torn on this one. I mean, with the formative in nature piece, I understand um, having students be able to revise and resubmit their same work, but that is not authentic to teaching. That is uh,
Right.
you don't go and teach the same lesson twice.
That's
Uh,
right.
so part of me also wants them to take the feedback, and because this in the natural supervision process, you get the feedback and then you don't teach the same thing again based on that feedback. You do new things, hopefully with that feedback in mind. So yeah, I can't, I don't know. I struggle with this one.
I do too, because I also think that maybe there's a way that you don't have to redo an entire TPA.
Yeah.
And then that's going to depend on how you scored. But let's say you need to demonstrate something in a particular area in a stronger way. You focus on that area. Yes, you have to submit supporting documents of what you're teaching, et cetera, et cetera. But do you need to do everything? I don't know. But again, that's way too much for us to figure out here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Should
should we
we,
just cross it
should we,
out and then
yeah,
talk to
I was
people
about to
about it?
say,
Okay.
I was like, yeah, should we just not handle
Should we
that
make
one?
a note? We think this already exists.
Well, the part that is different for this is as many times as necessary to achieve the passing score and the piece around the individual sections. So like so if you fail the TP, well, especially within Ed TPA, if you fail the Ed TPA, you have to resubmit the whole thing and pay the what is it, $500 or three hundred
Not
dollars
necessarily. It
or
depends on
not?
what you didn't pass on the Ed TPA. There
Yeah.
are some sections of it you can resubmit. For instance, written reflections
Uh,
or um, yeah, the analysis, the written parts, your analysis parts of
right.
what you did well or didn't do well. You obviously can't redo your lesson plans. You can't. I don't know. Let's just leave it at that for now. But maybe we have to go back into the other group, it looks like.
Okay.
I was just going to say on 2G um, that maybe there's a website of resources.
Mm.
Yeah, I guess maybe it'd be nice. Oh yeah. Doesn't something like this exist already?
I don't know. We should ask about, we can just say we didn't quite get to this, perhaps. And the last one sounds okay to me at this point, but um, so which Elisa and I have already been presenters today. So Matt,
Oh, but I got one better. I have to leave in about 10 minutes because I have class in lieu of a final. Uh,
seriously?
yeah.
Every time we have a meeting, you use this.
And we do it on Thursdays. It's funny how classes work. They just meet at the same time every week. And then
All right. Elisa, you want to do it?
No,
Okay, if we get there before you have to leave, Matt, you do it. If you have to leave, one of us will do it.
that is fair.
I'm gonna give that to Tina today.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah.
right. We better go back in the room is my thought.
All right.
Okay.
Good work, team.
That'll be our last
Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording.